And we are live. Welcome to the NBA Strategy Show. It is Monday, February 27th. I am Josh Engleman. I am finally joined by Adam Scherer. We are brought to you by PrizePicks. Light work today, 4-game slate. Got a lot to break down. We already got someone ruled out this morning since I've done content, which is pretty difficult to do usually. So we'll talk about that in a bit. But first, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. Hit the notification bell so you know when everything goes live. And got to give that shout out to PrizePicks, the sponsor of this video. We will certainly talk about them in a bit. And you guys should go watch my PrizePicks video the moment this strategy show ends. Adam, what's up? Welcome back.
Yeah, thanks, man. Glad to be back. Took a little bit of an extended NBA All-Star break vacation. So, yeah, glad to finally be back. Well, I came back Saturday and did the show with Greg, but glad to be back, on a weekday show.
I assume, now correct me if I'm wrong, but I assume the burning while urinating has cleared up since you got back from Savannah?
No, that's actually gotten worse, but I can breathe now.
So. Oh, okay. Okay. Just checking. Checking.
Yeah, two unrelated things.
Yes. How much, this is unrelated to basketball right now. How much did the scratched main event affect you in MMA on Saturday?
So it affected every lineup that I had, but at that point, at the time that it was scratched, every lineup that I had sucked anyway. So
I know that feeling. Was not a good one in the MMA streets. Big one this week. John Jones pay-per-view Saturday. We got a fun one to actually sit down and watch.
Yeah. So yesterday I was kind of bummed because I was like, I'd see the date March 4th and I was just like, I feel like I'm doing something March 4th, but I have no idea what it is. And then I turned on Netflix and it has like the Chris Rock picture up and it's like special March 4th. And so what it is, there's a Chris Rock live Netflix special in Baltimore on March 4th. So I'd had it in my head because I wanted to go, but obviously I'm going to just watch the John Jones fight instead.
Yeah, it's going to be a good one. So I'm excited for that. 150K up top, I think. On DK, so we'll have a fun time. I'm sure I'll get destroyed, but what else are you going to do? We got a lot of time to break this one down. A lot of weird stuff on this slate too. One really good DFS style game. A couple actual good NBA games. Are you ready to talk some basketball?
Yeah.
Alrighty. Well, let us get into it then. And we're going to start it off with the team that has already created news for today. That's going to be the Detroit Pistons. They are 6.5-point dogs in Charlotte, 237 total. And sometime in the time that I had done a process show and 2 contenders shows, Jaden Ivey was ruled out for personal reasons. They are already complicating matters by having no Jalen Duren. And Q tags on Bojan Bogdanovic and Isaiah Stewart. So I guess we'll start with the most ridiculous piece of today's slate. James Wiseman is a $3,700 power forward center eligible play on DraftKings, projected for 58% ownership, and that seems about right.
Yeah, I don't really have any issues with that. 3,700 is obviously insanely cheap, and Wiseman's issue has never been producing fantasy points. It's playing defense and playing NBA level basketball in general. So he's not the kind of guy where you're concerned about him from a fantasy standpoint. It's always just, is he going to get enough minutes? Because so far to this point in his career, he just hasn't been an NBA player. But right now we have him at 58% ownership, 45% chance of being optimal on DraftKings. That's just one of those situations where, like, yeah, he's going a bit over-owned, but if he's going to be in the optimal lineup nearly half the time, it's still clearly a very, very good play. Good point per minute guy, should get plenty of minutes here, inexpensive, not center only. I mean, there's not much more you can ask for here.
It's just wild. So looking through the rotations from the previous game with Bagley back, Marvin Bagley was James Wiseman's direct backup. Now, Bagley got to 27.5 minutes because Wiseman was in foul trouble and fouled out. How do you see... Now, let's just assume for right now that Isaiah Stewart is in, because if Isaiah Stewart ends up out, then these guys are certainly going to play alongside of each other, or at least I would assume that. How do you see this minute split working out for Wiseman and Bagley?
I would project it like 25-23 or 26-22 in favor of Wiseman, I think.
Sure. I went 26-22 Wiseman. Felt okay. I also think that they are live to play like a minute or two alongside. I know they didn't do it, but
yeah.
they can be, these are two guys that can play alongside. If they're willing to play Isaiah Stewart alongside Wiseman, they could play Bagley alongside Wiseman. Boy, by the way, a Wiseman Bagley front court is going to get beat like a drum. Like that is about as bad defensively as you are going to put together. That's fun to think about. Two just high level busts over the past couple of years. Do you like Bagley today?
PJ Washington is going to go from doubtful to probable as soon as he realizes that.
Yeah, for real. Do you like Bagley at all? So for some reason, Bagley is center only and Wiseman gets the power forward eligibility when in all reality, those guys should flip-flop those eligibilities.
Yeah, I mean, Bagley's fine in that he's cheap and he's not a bad point per minute guy either. And, you know, if Stewart's out, then yeah, I'd certainly like Bagley. If Stewart's in, Bagley, I think, is kind of just that like high upside backup center play. But the problem is that he is center only and he's more expensive than Wiseman. So it's not quite the same. Normally, when we talk about it, we're talking about, you know, the center being like 8K and then the backup being 3,500. And it doesn't take that much for him to pay it off if you get foul trouble. Here, you just have such a better clear value in the starter.
We also have at least two legitimate backup center options on today's slate that we're going to have to talk about that are better options than Marvin Bagley. At least as
right now, we
now.
have Bagley pulling like 13% ownership too.
Yeah, that feels a little high to me. So the other guy that I think is the unequivocal guy you got to get to here for the Pistons is Killian Hayes. 4,600, has been starting and playing 30 plus minutes. Now, no Jaden Ivey, which I assume just has to, at the very least, help him a little bit. Projected for 41% ownership. Going to be one of my higher exposed guys today. I just don't think you could really get away from that price, especially in a matchup against the Hornets.
Yeah, I don't really think you can either. Great matchup, like you said. 612 minutes this year without either one of Cade Cunningham or Jaden Ivey on the floor for Hayes. 21.7% usage rate and a 37% assist percentage, 1.02 DraftKings points per minute, and just a really, really cheap price tag at 4,600.
Yeah, I really don't have anything else to add here. Let's assume for right now that Bojan Bogdanovic and Isaiah Stewart are in. Who do you think is starting in Jaden Ivey's place? Yeah, that's kind of how I felt when I started.
I mean, it's either Burks or it's either Burks, Diallo, Livers, Joseph, Hampton, or Magruder.
I appreciate you at least naming the rest of the Pistons.
Yeah.
Somehow they're going to create additional people. That's where it starts to get kind of squirrely. Like, I don't think we have much to say about Bojan Bogdanovic, and like the trickle down effect of that is, you know, watch the deeper dive and live before lock. But we know that you can play Bojan and he looks good.
I'll add on Bogdanovic that he's played 407 minutes without those guys and has a 32% usage rate this year.
Yeah, like I'm very happy to get to Bojan, but he's sort of like the easiest thing to talk about. We know he's an actual good NBA player that's on the Pistons. What do you think looks best for the Pistons then with Ivy out? The guy that I'm getting to the most out of anybody is Burks, 3,500. I only gave him 24 minutes, but I don't have a great feel between his playing time, Diallo's playing time. Like we only have Diallo at 20% ownership. I got to a ton of Diallo, but I just happened to get to a little bit more Burks. Livers is at 3,200, not pulling any ownership. I mean, from a GPP perspective, looking at those three guys, it's a really interesting balance.
Yeah, I mean, Burks and Diallo are the two that really stand out for me, just because I agree that we don't know exactly how the minutes are going to look. But you have Alec Burks in 631 minutes without Ivy or Cunningham, putting up 1.04 DraftKings points per minute, 1 FanDuel point per minute, nearly a 24% usage rate. Amadou Diallo, 511 minutes, 23% usage rate, just shy of a fantasy point per minute. 383 minutes for Livers, 12% usage rate, 0.56 DraftKings points per minute. Like these are not, Livers is not comparable to the other two in terms of point per minute production. He is comparable in that we don't know how many minutes he's going to play, and maybe he somehow emerges as the guy that plays the bulk. But it's just a spot where unless you are just looking for a low-owned piece in a particular lineup, I would certainly rather be getting the Burks and Diallo than Livers.
And obviously, if Burks or Diallo are the starters, then this question doesn't become all that. Like it is just unequivocal that that guy is a good play. If Livers happens to start, I don't really think that does anything majorly negative to Burks and Diallo because they just don't really have enough body. Well, they have enough bodies, but those guys are going to play their 20 to 24 minutes by default here. Do we roll the dice on RJ Hampton?
I mean, I'm not planning on it, but
okay.
If he starts. Like he could certainly get there. I mean, I guess maybe in 150 max you end up with a little bit, but like right now we still only have him projected for 13 minutes.
Yeah, I gave him 16 and it still didn't matter, but it's out there. Corey
Yeah, like
Joseph as
he's just one
well.
of those guys where like if it ends up being the RJ Hampton game, you're gonna look back and be like, oh damn, I could have won a lot of money if I had just taken that stand. But like also there's a million spots like that fail and you never think about them again. So it's I wouldn't play him if he's not starting.
If Isaiah Stewart is in, actually, I guess no. If Isaiah Stewart is in, I'm assuming we want to set a Wiseman Bagley rule.
I would.
If Isaiah Stewart is out, we're not setting that rule, though, correct?
I would not.
Okay. Anything else that you would be looking at from a rules perspective for the Pistons on a day like today?
Not really. I know somebody in chat asked about max one of Burks and Diallo, but they're both so cheap. And with Ivy being out, I wouldn't worry about it. Like if you project 24 minutes for Burks, right now you have about 25 for Burks, 22 for Diallo. You still have Diallo projecting over 6x. You have Burks projecting over 7x on DraftKings. So like you don't want to just be setting a rule, especially on a 4-game slate, to keep those guys apart when their median projections both look that good. So I wouldn't set that. I would say like you could go with like a max 2, especially if Stewart's in, of Burks, Diallo, and Livers. Yeah. Or Burks, Diallo, Livers, Joseph, something like that. But I certainly wouldn't go with a max 1 there.
Okay. Is there anything else that we should be touching on here? Like the intricacies of figuring out what happens if Boyan's in and Stewart's out, or Stewart's in and that's for later today whenever we get more information. There's the trickle down here is kind of crazy.
Yeah.
And just in case I didn't mention it before, Nerlens Noel is not with the team right now, so he is not a danger to like pick up center minutes in any way if somebody gets ruled out. Then we go to Charlotte. For the Hornets, doubtful tag on PJ Washington for tonight. Cody Martin's still out. Bryce McGowan's got a contract, so good for him. We saw JT Thor pick up the start in PJ Washington's absence on Saturday. We're getting big ownership going to LaMelo Ball at 10-3. Fully deserved, in my opinion, even at 50%. I have more. Terry Rozier and Gordon Hayward are both around 25%. We could talk about those guys. Mark Williams is at 5,900. Had a big time breakout game over the weekend. Massive rebounding day, too. He's 20% owned. I think he looks good. Let's start with the 4 guys that we know are just starters that play minutes. Ball, Rozier, Hayward, Williams. I assume I know the answer, but who do you want the most of?
LaMelo.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, I mean, he's just playing so many minutes right now. You got 40 again last game. Obviously, he's a very good point per minute guy as well. Good matchup. 10-3 is certainly a reasonable price tag, especially for the playing time that you're getting. As long as you avoid foul trouble on him, you're just getting huge minutes. They're still shorthanded without PJ Washington again, probably without PJ Washington. So those minutes still look very good for LaMelo. Not that I think they would go anywhere anyway, but looks great.
Yeah, it's just one of those things where the price, the matchup, I mean, getting to face the Pistons is obviously a dream scenario, particularly on a 4-gamer. When you look at Rozier, Hayward, and I'm going to include Williams, even though like center is obviously different. What stands out most to you from that trio? Do you have a preference between the 3?
Between Rozier, Williams, Hayward, I think they're all pretty similar when you factor in pricing and position. Mark Williams, certainly a good point per minute guy, good matchup, but we've already talked about, I guess Weissman, you can play at power forward, so not a great example here, but you always have, good centers you can get to. We have 3 more games, but I do think Williams looks good. Played, 29 minutes last game. Typically, if he avoids foul trouble, you're getting around, 28 minutes or so. So no issues getting to him. He's probably the most difficult from a positional standpoint of those 3, but still pulling 19% ownership, 12% chance of being optimal. Rozier at 6,800, Hayward at 6K, both reasonable price tags as well. 35 minutes last game for Rozier, 30 for Hayward. You probably get around there again for Hayward, maybe a little bit more here.
Oh, never mind. It was the last sentence you said. I had a question queued up about Gordon Hayward's minutes with PJ Washington out, and then you closed with it, and I wasn't really ready for you to close with it. I mentioned before that there were going to be some backup centers that are interesting in regards to Bagley. How do you feel about $3,800 Nick Richards today at 5% ownership?
Yeah, I think that one's interesting. Like that's more interesting to me than $4,500 Bagley if Stewart's in, just because he is $700 less expensive. He's he's about a fantasy point per minute guy, and he's getting those minutes if Williams gets in foul trouble. Last game, 19 for Richards, 29 for Williams. You're getting a 48-minute split there. Richards, I mean, can have a decent game even in 19 to 20 minutes, but obviously that's not what you're looking for. If Mark Williams gets in foul trouble and only plays, let's say, 24 minutes, you're getting 24 from Richards, especially with PJ Washington not likely to play.
Right. Yeah. I think Richards is really interesting as a GPP play for today, particularly if that ownership holds. And I think we're going to see some other backup type plays that are pulling more ownership than Nick Richards. And I think there's just a lot of upside here against the Pistons. What do we do with the rest of these guys? Because we got Kelly Oubre back on Friday. I don't really have a clue how many minutes he can play. I went to 24. We saw JT Thor get the start on Saturday. He is the flat min 3K power forward and somehow isn't pulling ownership on a 4-game slate. If you ever want to know how much someone sucks, that's a pretty good way to
I thought you meant you
didn't
know why he wasn't. I was like,
No, like I mean, I know why he's not, but it's pretty rare to see someone that is expected to start at the flat minimum on a 4-gamer pull nothing and deserve it. And then you get DSJ, who played 28 minutes this past Saturday. Minutes seem to be ramping back up again. For a bit, once everybody got healthy, I thought that he might be phased out. That doesn't appear to be happening. 4,700. How do you feel about the other Hornets?
not very good. It's a combination of playing. So like the guys, JT Thor clearly the most favorably priced, but he's about a 0.57 fantasy point per minute guy this year. He did play 26 minutes last game. I mean, it's if he's starting like and you want to just try and get lucky, sure, but you shouldn't have any real expectations for him. Dennis Smith Jr.'s price tag's gone up to 4,700. That makes it tough to get there. The minutes are likely to be there, but it's just difficult to pay that price tag for him off the bench. Oubre at 6,300, assuming he's not just coming in and playing 30 minutes here, is essentially impossible to get to. Kai Jones is center only. There's nothing really I want to get to here. I think the most likely thing I would do is take shots at JT Thor and hope to run good.
Yeah. Would you be willing to play Williams and Richards together?
Probably not. Like I agree they both could have good games. It's still Williams is expensive enough. I think you need typically you're going to need the 28 to 29 minutes. And if you get 19, 20 minutes from Richards, you're probably talking about that 19, 20 fantasy point game. Even if he goes for 22 or something, that's not really what you're looking for.
Yeah. I think look, we have enough situations without burying the lead here. We're probably going to have Willie Hernan-Gomez as the backup center in New Orleans. If you have a Mark Williams lineup, you're just going to prefer to have Willie Hernan-Gomez instead of Nick Richards, or vice. Like if you're flipping this around, if you have Joe Val, you'd rather have, you know what I mean? Yeah. You know where I'm going with this.
Like they can certainly both get there from a they ended up being good point per dollar plays standpoint. It's just hard for them both to get there from I just won a tournament with these guys standpoint.
Yeah. Look, I would not be surprised at all if they went 27-21 in minutes and they both just played well because the Pistons are ass and they can be in an optimal lineup. That's a reasonable scenario, but I don't know if you need to think about trying to get to it. You'll probably be able to create something better without having to do it. I don't think anything actually precludes those two guys from being in a good lineup today just because of this matchup and what these other games look like, but it's not a priority.
Yeah. I mean, and it's also kind of depends what you're talking about. I think it certainly wouldn't be something I did in single entry 3 max. If I'm getting, in 150 max, if I'm getting it a lot, I wouldn't really want that. But if it happens in 2 out of 150 lineups, sure, whatever.
I agree. Okay. Anything else we should be touching on here from the Hornets?
No.
All righty. Schedule for the rest of the day. Lots to talk about on this one. So we've got at 1:30, we'll have the No House Advantage NBA show. At 3 p.m., you will get the So Rare NBA show. And then the big one here, the Odds Shop. 4 p.m. live show on our Odds Shopper channel. So not on this channel, on our other channel. You're going to get the Odds Shop. That's going to be Lofty. That's going to be Ben. Doing a live show based on some sports bets. Make sure you're checking this one out, guys. I think you're going to really enjoy it. Go check it out. Again, Odds Shopper channel, not on this channel. Then you come back over here to our channel at 5 p.m. for the deeper dive. That you're going to get Adam back for that one. Live before lock then from 6 to 7:30 with Greg and Eric. Going to be a good time, folks. Good time. And then if you want to sign up at stokastic.com, you are in luck. There is a link in the description of this video, Jordan can probably drop one as well. You can get 50% off of a week or a month of any Stokastic package, as long as it doesn't include Fantasy Cruncher. So if you want to check out what we've got behind the paywall for, a brief time, save a little money, you can grab the week pass. If you want the month pass, you can go that direction as well. That's projections, ownership, boom, bust, optimal rates. You name it, we've got it behind the paywall. And that's going to cover everything you would want here in the NBA. So 50% off if you want it. Link in the description. I don't know what I just missed, but I'm going to try to catch up to it. Let's go on to game number 2. This is where it starts to get a little bit worse. The Miami Heat are 6-point dogs in Philly, 216 total. I honestly can't even remember a scenario where I've seen something so unowned on a 4-game slate. The highest owned guy on the Heat is 7% owned Bam Adebayo. It's 5 to Butler. It's 2 to Tyler Hero, who, does have a Q tag on him today. We potentially are getting Kyle Lowry back. He's got a Q tag as well. I'm still reeling from Friday night, finding out that Kevin Love was starting and then played 26 minutes on Saturday night. Didn't see that one coming at all. What the hell do we do with the Heat here? Like, the game environment is awful. It's a great real life game, but 216 total. How do we handle a team that has real high level NBA players that are sort of just priced where they should be and are uninteresting?
Yeah, it's really tough to love anything here. I think that it does offer the opportunities to get to some, good fantasy producers at very low ownership, especially for a 4-game slate. But $8,600 Bam, center only. Butler, small forward only, $8,800. I don't know how Jimmy Butler is one of the only people on DraftKings without multi-position eligibility, but that somehow is a thing. Like, they're both good point per minute guys. They're both going to play a lot of minutes. They certainly have high ceilings. You just can't build around these guys in terms of them being priority plays. You're not going to get a lot of them. They are good ways to differentiate a lineup. You're getting a very good player at low ownership. Same goes for Tyler Hero at 7,700 coming off of a 40-minute game. If Lowry is back, that probably comes back down to earth a little bit, but you're still expecting 36 plus from Hero, I think. He's, pretty much correctly priced. Kevin Love is probably correctly priced now at 5,400. I don't really know, but assuming he's playing 25, 26 minutes and he's going to be, a bit over a fantasy point per minute guy, that seems like about the correct price tag. So I think it's an interesting tournament team where I'm not just jamming in any of these guys. I'm not looking at any of them and saying oh, I can't believe Hero's so low owned, or I can't believe Bam is so low owned. But I am looking at it and saying on 4-game slates, it's typically difficult to find low owned guys where you aren't just saying this is an actively terrible player or play and I hope I get lucky. You are actually getting good fantasy options at low ownership.
Yeah. You also get I'm not a narrative guy, but Jimmy Butler against Philly just feels like he's the type of guy that cares more about this matchup than your average person. I can't quantify that.
Yeah. Maybe his toe injury won't act up today.
Right. For some reason, he just feels like he's going to stick it to them. I don't know. I think one of Bam, Hero, Butler, Love ends up being a play that is in a winning lineup tonight. But your guess is as good as mine. You got to win 2 coin flips for one team right out of the gate, and then figure the rest of it out. I can't remember situations where I've seen something like this where there's only 8 teams and Miami is I got 1 share of Bam and that was it on my first dummy run. And I don't even see it as wrong.
No, it's tough. I mean, I mentioned the ownership being low, but if you compare it to optimal lineup percentages, it's not wrong. 7% ownership coming in the Bam, 7% chance of being optimal. 5% ownership coming to Butler, 7% chance of being optimal. Love, 2% ownership, 5% chance of being optimal. Hero, 2% ownership, 4% chance of being optimal. They're going quote unquote under owned, but they're also wildly unlikely to be optimal.
Yeah, you just don't see it like this all that frequently. And I think we're in agreement here. If everybody's in, if Hero's in and Lowry is in, there's no chance you're playing anybody else from the Heat. You're not going. There's no Caleb Martin. There's no Strus, Oladipo, Cody Zeller. None of this stuff is possible.
When did they get Cody Zeller?
I don't know. Sometime in the last 10 days.
I hadn't seen that name in a while.
He played 16 and 15 minutes over the weekend on Friday and Saturday.
Good to know. So,
I don't know what the hell happened. Orlando Robinson must be like, what, man?
Yeah.
Come on.
Didn't he get hurt?
Orlando Robinson?
No, never mind. Guess I imagine that.
I mean, I would rather be hurt if I knew that I was losing time to Cody Zeller. So yeah, there's also that. And then we go to Philly, who's not all that different, but certainly better. We've got James Harden and Joel Embiid both pulling in the 20 to 25% ownership range. Embiid, I think, looks fantastic. We could have a discussion about how he ranks in comparison to LaMelo Ball. We got 10-ish% ownership coming into Tobias Harris and Tyrese Maxey, a small amount of ownership coming into DeAnthony Melton. I assume we're on the same page that Joel Embiid is the preferred Philadelphia option.
Yeah, looks really good at 11K. Less opportunity cost at the position than there normally is, just because of it being a 4-game slate and no Nikola Jokic on it. So very clearly a strong pay-up option here. Not a good matchup, but doesn't matter all that much. It's Joel Embiid. He's going to play big minutes, assuming this game's competitive and he's not in foul trouble. He's a great point per minute guy. There's nothing really negative to say about him.
Would you prefer Ball to him, though?
Probably. Just because there's probably going to be better alternatives at the center position than there are at the guard positions like normal.
All right. When you look at the rest of Philly, how do you see it shaking out? Harden just ends up being a guy that I don't get to enough. I am getting to a bit of Tobias Harris, who actually got his price back up over that 5K range. So kudos to him.
Yeah, kind of surprised how much ownership's coming into Harden. I think it probably just speaks to it being easy to get him into lineups. 21% ownership, 24% chance of being optimal. And that's, with Embiid pulling 28% ownership, LaMelo pulling near 50. So clearly it's just a matter of, you have so much value from Detroit. You have value, elsewhere sprinkled around as well. So it's easy enough to get to him. Certainly not going to be mad about it. Plays, 37 plus minutes, played 41 and a half last game. No problems there. Harris and Maxey look fine. You got 25 minutes from Maxey last game, but you know that you're always live for 30, depending on how the game breaks out. Harris is going to give you big minutes. It's just that he's clearly, the third or fourth option here. 5,300's decent. So Embiid and Harden, I think, are the priorities. Harris, Maxey are secondary plays. And then $3,700 DeAnthony Melton is like the fifth piece.
I think we're on the same page there. I can't really see getting to Tucker. You're going to have to project him for the full 36 for him to become viable.
Rebounds again.
Yeah. Doesn't seem like we're going to get enough out of Niang or Jalen McDaniels on days like this. Shake Milton might be fully out of the rotation. Keep an eye on that. I don't know what that trickle down would look like, but he played 2 minutes on Saturday and it wasn't like an injury related thing. He got them late as well. Fascinating. The first 2 games are fat. Like Detroit, Chicago, or Detroit, Charlotte is, a battle of the ass end of the NBA with DFS plays galore. Then you get Miami, Philly, like an actual war that you want to watch. And it's just like, I don't know, maybe I'll have some of it. Like I might have Joel Embiid. Very different games. Luckily, I'm saved by the blackout on League Pass for Pistons Hornets, so I can watch Heat Sixers to start off the night. But I will have much more of my money tied up in that Pistons Hornets game. And I know inevitably somebody's gonna be like, "Yeah, Josh, they're streamed." I'm not digging out a stream to cast to my TV. I've got League Pass like a real person. Anything else here, Miami or Philadelphia?
Nope.
We got to talk a little bit about PrizePicks, presenting sponsor of this video. I've got a PrizePicks video that's already out. It's been out for 2 hours at this point, giving you my 5 favorite props at PrizePicks. If you want to sign up at PrizePicks, which you definitely should do, link in the description. Make a deposit. They'll match it up to $100. You're taking player props here, over-unders. Put together 5 on one card. You can net up to 10x your entry fee. You get 25x if you hit 6 of 6. But the good thing is here, if you're doing the 5x like I'm doing in my video, if you get 4 of 5, you don't just get nothing back. You get 2x your money. If you get 3 of 5, you'll get 0.8x your money back. They're constantly running promotions. Every Tuesday is Taco Tuesday, where you get one prop that's just going to look a little bit better than the others. Adam and I are going to work our way through a couple of these props now, get an idea of where he stands. We've got some fantasy scores available. We're going back to Charlotte. They've got 4 props for Charlotte and nobody else. So that's what we're going to hit. This is going to be fantasy scores. That's going to be, for anybody that's curious, that's FanDuel type scoring. 3 points for any steal or block. You lose a full point for turnovers. Gordon Hayward, over under 30 and a half.
I would lean under, but that seems pretty much correct.
Yeah, I don't have much of a stand here. I got him at 29 and a half. A lot of wiggle room there. 50.5 on LaMelo Ball.
Slight over. We have him projected for 50.5, but that's in 36.5 minutes. He's likely to play a little bit more.
Yeah, I got him at 51 in 38, so that would be pretty close as well. This one, I like the over quite a bit. I'm curious where you end up landing here. Mark Williams, 30.5.
Yeah, over.
That, to me, is the easy one to get
It's not
to.
by a ton, but it's by more than the other two.
Yeah. And then Terry Rozier is sitting at 36. That feels like a pretty good line to me
perfect,
as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have much else to touch on. I actually took the Mark Williams rebound prop for tonight in my video. That line is set at 9.5. Feels like he should, barring foul trouble, just safely soak up a bunch of missed shots from Killian Hayes and get to 10 boards tonight. Feels like facing the Pistons, missing. Although, honestly, having Ivy is probably a good thing because he's always live to go like 4 of 22 from the field. So it's a good rebounding day when Jaden Ivey can be out there. Anyway, guys, PrizePicks. Check it out. Link in the description and in chat if you're live with us right now. Another good basketball game here at 7:30. The Boston Celtics, 2.5-point favorites in New York, taking on the Knicks. It's a 223 total. Now for Boston, we have no Jaylen Brown in this one, out for personal reasons. Derek White is available here. They're running a pretty tight rotation right now. Is your assumption Smart, White, Tatum, Horford, Time Lord?
Yes.
Okay. We're got 30, we'll call it 35% ownership coming into Tatum and Derek White, about 15 coming into Smart, Robert Williams, Malcolm Brogdon, Grant Williams. So lots to like here for Boston so far. It's obvious that we could talk about Jason Tatum in a second. I want to lead with Derek White. Do you think he's going straight back to that 34-ish minute range that we had been seeing before everybody came back?
I think it's pretty likely. I mean, obviously there's a lot of minutes to soak up with Jaylen Brown out. White's minutes in general have been trending up recently. They've, when they've been shorthanded, they've given him more runs. So I think that's a pretty reasonable expectation.
How do you feel about
34 right now, and I don't really have a problem with that.
How do you feel about him? 5,500, point guard, shooting guard eligible, 35% owned.
I think he's a good play. He's played 611 minutes total this year without Brown on the floor, 1.06 DraftKings points per minute. Of those minutes, I'm looking to see how many Tatum has been on the floor, but I think just a combination of the playing time and solid production from White makes him look good at that price tag.
Okay, let's quickly talk about Jason Tatum. There's not a lot to really discuss here. He's Jason Tatum. He's really good at basketball. Small forward, power forward eligible, 10,200, 37% owned, fully justified to me.
Yeah, about 1.4 DraftKings points per minute without Brown. He's going to play big minutes. 10-2, small forward, power forward, so not as much opportunity cost as there is at some of these other positions as well. He looks great. And just to double back to Derek White, 0.98 DraftKings points per minute when he has shared the floor with Jason Tatum without Jaylen Brown this year. So as long as he gets those minutes, he's going to project like a good option.
Tatum or LaMelo Ball?
That's really close. I want to say Tatum just because he's got the better positional eligibility. LaMelo's got the better matchup. I think it's really close.
Yeah. I mean, the 3 pay up options for today, the 10-2 for Tatum, 10-3 for LaMelo, 11K for Embiid, they're all getting ownership. I think that they all should. Yeah. I think they're all pretty close relative to their salary.
I think Embiid's clearly the most difficult to get to of those 3. Not to say he's difficult to get to or a bad player or anything, but I think it's easier to get to LaMelo and Tatum because of position and just a little bit cheaper price tag. But between Tatum and LaMelo, I think it's kind of splitting hairs.
If you're building a lineup that doesn't have one of those 3 guys, you're probably making a giant mistake today.
Yeah, because I imagine at that point you're also then fading the Detroit value or something, and you're just putting yourself in a position where maybe if Detroit forfeits the game and all of Embiid, Tatum, and LaMelo get hurt, you have a good lineup.
Yeah. One of those guys is bound to have a 65th percentile outcome, and those raw points are just going to be what you needed for today. So, what about the rest of this here? So we've got Smart, Horford, Time Lord, Brogdon, Grant Williams. I think they're really the only guys that we can actually talk about. Do any of them look good to you? Because I see basically every single guy for the Celtics that isn't Jason Tatum to look very, very comparable.
Why is Marcus Smart getting less than half the ownership of Derek White at the exact same price tag?
That's a great question. I don't totally understand it myself. I have them projected for basically the same projection in basically the same minutes. White, I mean, I guess gets the benefit of having the MPE, but they came out of my sim at essentially 14% combined, like each. And that's how I see it. It makes no sense.
Yeah, I mean, we have White projected for 34 minutes. We have Smart at 34 and a half. We have White at 30.9 DraftKings points, 29.2 for Smart. So, like, yeah, you're getting a little bit better projection on Derek White. But if you have two guys that are the exact same price tag, you really should not be getting like more than 2x the ownership going to one because their median projection is 1 point higher. Like, that is basically the same thing. And even if you look at their rates without Jaylen Brown on the floor, Derek White, 1.06 DraftKings points per minute. Marcus Smart, 1.01. Like, yeah, slight projection edge for Derek White. And I think he's a good play, but I think the ownership between him and Marcus Smart should be a lot closer.
I completely agree with you. Do you see anything else?
The one thing I will mention, maybe the MPE is really playing a role here. If you look at our optimal percentages, we have 18% for Marcus Smart and 30% for Derek White. So that does point to White, should be a lot more popular. That would be the one thing that, like, obviously just looking at data I can't quantify is how important is that shooting guard spot. But aside from that, White and Smart are very, very similar plays.
Agreed. Who do you want otherwise here from Boston? 5,100 for Time Lord. We saw him play 31 minutes on Saturday. You can't really project him for 31, but certainly a viable option. Paying down for Grant Williams, I think, is there. Brogdon has the opportunity to step into more minutes, more usage with no Jaylen Brown. Does anybody else stand out? Because these guys all just look fine.
Yeah, they all just look fine. 5,100 for Robert Williams, assuming he gets around 27, 28 minutes, is going to look perfectly fine. Brogdon at 5,700. You don't love that price tag from a median standpoint, but he's a really good point per minute guy. And if it just happens to be a game where Brogdon walks into 26 minutes, you're going to wish you had him at 5,700. So he's certainly appealing. Grant Williams at 3,400 looks fine. If he starts, he looks better. Horford at 4,800 is whatever. There's a lot to get to from this team. I think Tatum is the clear priority. Then you get White. And like I said, I think the gap between White and Smart should be closer, but I still think White gets the edge. But then, like, Smart, Williams, Brogdon all look more or less the same.
Yeah, I mean, you can get a Brogdon day like this past Thursday with, everybody in. Brogdon played 37 minutes. Right. Like, if you knew Malcolm Brogdon was playing 37 minutes today, he's 100% in every lineup that you make.
And I mean, the guy he's just about 1.2 DraftKings points per minute without Jaylen Brown on the floor. If you put Jason Tatum on the floor, it stays the same. He's a great point per minute guy in the spot. It's just a matter of if he plays 22 minutes, you probably didn't want him at 5,700. If he plays 30 plus, you probably needed him at 5,700.
Are you worried about any rules for Boston? I would assume no.
No.
Nothing else to add here. So we'll go to the New York Knickerbockers, the most annoying team to me in the league. Everybody's available. So they're going to run the same rotation that they basically run all the time. Julius Randle is projected for 20% ownership. Everybody else is in single digits. Understanding the balance of who can close for this team is very, very tricky and could open you up to something. I don't feel like anything looks amazing here, but let's start with Mitchell Robinson, 5,200. Center eligibility, came out and played 28 and 28 minutes in his first two games back, but was live to play much north of 30 in the most recent game, did not close. Is he just going to get back to the 34 minutes a night that he had been playing before he got injured?
It seems certainly possible. I'm really intrigued by his lack of ownership here at 5,200, only pulling 5%.
Yeah.
He's a 0.93 DraftKings point per minute guy this year. I get why, like, Robert Williams would get more ownership at the same price tag, but Mitchell Robinson still gives you a massive ceiling. The guy's got huge block upside. And like you were saying, he could just come out there and play 32 minutes. He's played 28 in the first two, but like you said, 4 minutes and 7 seconds of garbage time. He subbed out, didn't play that. I don't think you project 32. I think you project around 28. But the path's there for him to get north of 30, and at very little ownership, it's not hard to see how Mitchell Robinson gives you a game that you really would like to have.
Absolutely. What do you see for the rest of this team? I think $9,300 Randall is kind of clearly the one you want to get to, but I don't have any problem getting to Brunson either.
Yeah, Randall clearly looks good at 9,300. That price tag's very reasonable. He's the only guy pulling double-digit ownership here, and that's probably how it should be. Jalen Brunson coming in just shy of 10%. No problems with that at 8,500. Talked about Robinson as a good contrarian play. Barrett and Emmanuel quickly. Barrett at 5,800 on DraftKings, quickly at 5K. Both kind of interesting in tournaments. You got 26 and a half minutes last game from quickly. Maybe he closes that game if it's competitive, maybe not. Certainly could. RJ Barrett, the playing time's certainly riskier now because you have quickly stealing minutes, which was a thing for a while. Now you have Josh Hart taking minutes. So you can never feel confident in Barrett. But if he goes out there and plays well and is knocking down shots, he's probably going to play more minutes. Those guys are always kind of appealing in tournaments. So Randall's the guy you're getting to the most here. Brunson and Robinson are the next most interesting guys to me. And then if you get to some Barrett, some quickly, I don't have any problems with that.
Gonna have a tough time getting to Josh Hart.
I think Josh Hart's in that same category with quickly.
Yeah. Just a little too expensive. He's just not good enough on a per minute basis to
He does have shooting guard, small forward on DraftKings, which is nice.
Certainly helps. Weird team. Don't mind, it's a situation where it's pretty clear that I think I'm going to have a bunch of the Celtics side. So the two guys that I do think I'll get the most are Brunson and Randall. And that is who I want to get in that scenario. If I'm going to be overloaded to the Celtics in some way, give me the two best players on the Knicks on the opposite side. It makes me feel a little bit better. I mean, yeah, China's probably next for him anyway. If he didn't want to be on the Knicks, he wouldn't be on the Knicks right now. He's just also not good enough to play basketball in the NBA any longer. I got nothing else for the Knicks.
Me neither.
So through 3 games, what do you think of this slate so far?
I think it's actually pretty interesting. There's some tournament plays that aren't getting much ownership that I think are actually solid.
I kind of like it. I hope nothing crazy happens. I don't want to get to the computer tonight at 5:30 and find out that some team ruled out all of their starters and we got 6 guys that are 60% owned and we're creating chops all over the place. Let's just have a fun one today. We got 2 monsters tomorrow and Wednesday, so there's also that coming pretty quickly. You know what else is awesome, Adam?
Me?
Certainly not. That would be the NBA lineup generator. It's something that I think that anybody that is interested in DFS that doesn't do a lot of multi-entry stuff, at the very least, isn't playing 150 lineups. This is the tool for you. We have created this lineup generator. We create lineups on the back end, thousands and thousands and thousands, according to the rules that all the people that you have come to know and love around here have set up, the Alex Bakers, the Sean Zons, the Steve Buzzards of the world. And they parse through all of these lineups. We throw away everything that we think is garbage. And then we present them to you basically like a Tinder app. You can just swipe through lineups if you want. If you want to keep it, click save. If you want to discard it, get rid of it. You can get our lineup generator for 50% off the first week. That's normally, around $10. You're getting it for the cost of a latte at Starbucks. Someplace under $5. You can swap out individual guys. You're generating lineups, whether they're contrarian, balanced, ultra chalky. If you have one guy, you can lock a player if you would like. If you've got somebody that you don't really like there, just click one little button. You can swap him out for somebody else. You can save up to 20 lineups. So this is going to be great for anybody trying to play 1 lineup or 3 lineups, all the way up to a 20 max. And we're doing all the work for you on the back end. Highly, highly recommend you check it out, whether the link in chat, link in the description, or check out the QR code on the screen. Either way, come sign up for our NBA lineup generator. I have a sneaky suspicion you're going to enjoy it. And if you ever watch our Hall of Fame segments, you will see it being shouted out quite a bit. Brajal, in fact, with 2 big wins over the past month using the lineup generator. We close this one out. Late night hammer, 8 p.m. start. Can we talk about how great the times of these games are tonight? We're done by basically 7:45.
Yeah, I love that. It's like playing on the West Coast.
It's so satisfying to know that you're not just oh shit, now I got to stay up till 10:30 to wait for news for this final game. I'm setting alarms on my phone so I don't sleep through it and stuff. This is Perfect scenario. I said on the process this morning, I wish it was a 5-game slate over a 4-game slate, but I know if there was a 5th game and it would be a West Coast game, and I'd rather have the 4 than. The Orlando Magic are 4-point dogs in New Orleans, 224 total. This one's pretty easy to talk about. The Orlando Magic have no John Isaac, which I think they've heard before. And there's not a lot of ownership coming in. They don't do anything weird. It's the same rotations pretty much every night. 10 to 15% ownership coming into Bol, Wendell Carter, Markelle Fultz, Paolo Banchero, Franz Wagner. The floor is yours for Orlando. Does anything immediately actually stand out to you?
No, not as like a top priority. I have been getting a lot of Wendell Carter Jr. lately. I assume I'll be there again at 6,500. Horrible game last time out. Only played 18 minutes, picked up 3 fouls in the first 6 minutes of the game, and then didn't play the rest of the first half. But typically you're getting around 30 minutes from him. He looks fine. Paolo Banchero at 7,100. Nothing wrong with that price tag. Fultz at 6,200 is fine. But it's just, that's kind of how the team is. Like everybody just looks okay. There's nothing really that stands out. There's nothing like super interesting to say. You do most likely get more minutes for Bol without Jonathan Isaac. He's 3,100, played 22 minutes last game. About 3 minutes of that was garbage time. But if you're going to get 17, 18 minutes from Bol at 3,100, that's certainly a reasonable spot to be. 4K for Jalen Suggs isn't a bad price point. 26 minutes last game. Again, did get some garbage time, but he also closed the first half, which was kind of interesting because it was in place of Paolo Banchero. But, you can get, call it 22 minutes from Suggs with the potential for a little bit more. At 4K, there's nothing, wrong with that price tag. Franz Wagner at 6,100 looks okay. There's 6 guys on this team projected for between 7 and 15% ownership. There's 2 more, Mo Wagner and Cole Anthony, projected for 3 to 4% ownership. And then you have Gary Harris getting 2. So there's a lot of guys that you can play from this team, and there's not one guy that stands out.
Yeah, we're on the same page here. You can kind of pick and choose somebody from Orlando, and you're probably going to have like one magic guy in just about everything you create, but it's also going to be a full-on grab bag of which one that is. Any one of the Franz, Paolo, Fultz, Carter, like that first starting group, like just pick one of those dudes out of a hat if you want. Like Wendell Carter certainly looks like the worst option just because he's a center, and we're going to name 100 of them, but
yeah,
still
I think
not a problem.
Banchero and Fultz are the 2 that I would expect to get to the most. For me personally, I guess I have to include Carter just because I've been just jamming that dude in like every slate recently for some reason. But
he's my Franz Wagner.
Yeah, I was about to say, I think it's cute that you insist on including Franz Wagner in the Carter Banchero Fultz group of actual good players, but actual good guys that don't totally suck at fantasy.
Thank you.
But
so bad.
What?
He's been so bad lately.
Yeah. But yeah, I think Banchero and Fultz are the ones that are probably easiest to get to. I would say Carter is 3rd, and then Franz is probably 4th.
Interesting team. I guess, add Mo Wagner to the list of backup centers that are completely reasonable options for a day like today, but put him in the Nick Richards mold. Anything else for Orlando?
No, just a lot of dudes. Rule wise, I wouldn't want Mo Wagner with Carter.
Yeah.
Mo Wagner is a competent backup center play, by the way, if you're looking for one of those. Wouldn't want him with Carter, though. Other than that, I don't really care too much about rules. I wouldn't want more than 2 probably of like Suggs, Bol, Anthony, Harris, but I don't think you're getting that too often anyway, even without setting a rule.
Banchero is a bust. That is some take for the guy that's going to win Rookie of the Year and is like very clearly a future everything in the NBA.
Yeah.
That's a take. Oof. All right, time to do it. Pelicans, 224 total. And the interesting piece here, no Zion Williamson, no shock. No Larry Nance in this one either. When Nance went out, they went to Willie Hernan-Gomez at the backup spot. But we got to start with the ownership on Joval. He's 6,400. He's 15% owned. He has played 31, 29, and 32 minutes over the past 3 games. 1, how many minutes do you want to project Joval for? And 2, are you surprised to see 15% ownership on this slate? Because I got a sneaky suspicion I'm going to have way more.
Yeah, I can't believe that's not higher. He looks really good. We had seen him play 29 minutes with Nance in the other day. Then last game, he played 32, the game where Nance got hurt. He played 32. that also is a game where he subbed out with 4 minutes to go. He looks really good here. He's played 11 games this year with no Larry Nance. He's averaged 28.3 minutes per game, 1.25 DraftKings points per minute. Obviously, you don't expect Nance's absence to affect the production, but he's just 1.2 to 1.25 fantasy point per minute guy. 24 minutes per game when Nance has been active. So averaging 4 minutes more per game without Larry Nance. Price tag is pretty much where it was anyway. I have no idea why he's only getting 15% ownership, especially against an Orlando team as well.
29-19 for him and Willie.
Yeah, it seems reasonable. Maybe, yeah, I mean, I don't know if you want to give any 28, 18, 2 or something for Hayes. But
yeah. What do we do with Willie Hernangomez? 3,600, pulling 18% ownership. This is where you start to see those other names, and it's like, why? Like, I agree. Willie Hernangomez is the best per minute backup that we're going to get to. Should he be getting that much more ownership than Nick Richards today?
Probably.
Yeah.
If you're going to play two centers from the same team, this is the one I'd go to. I still I'm with you. From especially in large field tournaments, I think that the upside is highest. Like if you have Joe Val play Nick Richards instead of Hernangomez, but Hernangomez is such a good point per minute guy. Nick Richards is around 1 fantasy point per minute. Hernangomez is 1.2. So it's easier for this one to play out where if you get 28 minutes from Joval and 20 from Hernangomez is probably one of the best values on the slate, while Valanciunas probably is smashing a $6,400 price tag. These guys are both such good point per minute guys. I actually don't care that much about having them together. Is it ideal? No, but I also don't think I want to just restrict every Joval lineup from having Hernangomez, whereas I'm actually fine with doing that with Williams and Richards.
Okay. Yeah, I think it's just a fascinating setup here for Joval and Willie. So I'm sure they're going to run out Jackson Hayes or Darion Sebron, who played on Wednesday. I don't know if that's a real person. He's with the G League. It's just I get he's marked as a shooting guard here. I have no idea who he is. I've never seen that name before. It looked like made up letters. So let's talk about the other guy that I have some interest in here today. 25% owned Brandon Ingram, 8K, small forward eligibility, playing big minutes ever since he's been back. How you thinking? How you feel about BI today?
I think he looks good. 8K is certainly a reasonable price tag. He's small forward eligible. Again, no idea how he only has one position, but it being small forward instead of shooting guard at least makes him a little bit more, a little bit easier to play on DraftKings. Yeah. So 25% ownership, 30% chance of being optimal. Still clearly no Zion. So I think Ingram looks good.
What are we doing here with the rest of the Pels? CJ McCollum's pulling about 15% ownership. Newly minted starter Josh Richardson's playing is at 15% ownership. Not as much going to Herb Jones or Trey Murphy. Not much else that I think you could really get to. But how do you feel about the rest of the Pels?
Yeah, just other guys, not the same level of priority as Ingram, Hernangomez, and in my opinion, Valanciunas. Right now, obviously, the field is projected to disagree a bit, but I think those three are the ones that stand out. But then you get to McCollum at 7,400, certainly no problems getting there. In the games that he's played this year without Zion and with Brandon Ingram, he's played 13 games, 1.1 DraftKings points per minute, just about 36 minutes per game. Ceiling certainly there for him in a good matchup. Josh Richardson at 5,400, shooting guard only. Again, not sure how we're deciding MPE on DraftKings right now, but played 34 minutes and could have played more last game. I don't think you're expecting that on average, but certainly could top 30 minutes again here. He looks okay at 5,400. Certainly not the same level of value as when he was 4,200 or 4,400, but still think he's a good play. So I think that basically the priorities here are Ingram, Joval, Hernangomez. Then I think McCollum, Richardson is the second tier. And then the third tier of guys where it's they're playable, but I probably won't get to that much is $4,300 Herb Jones, power forward only. $4,100 Trey Murphy, $3,300 Najee Marshall, basically just trying to get lucky.
Herb Jones, $4,300 power forward who will play probably 0 minutes at power forward today.
Yep. Yeah, and Ingram is probably playing 0 at the 3.
Yeah. All righty. 4 games up, 4 games down. I think this is a fun slate. I just hope that it doesn't get ripped away from us with some late day funkery that we tend to see. But Very interesting dynamic at the top of the board with the 10K plus guys. Plenty of salary to go around from a value perspective. And then we've got this rotating sea of backup centers that are probably, like, one of them is probably going to be the guy that you need tonight. Finding out which one it is going to be interesting. What have you got going on for the rest of the day?
NBA Notes article will be out shortly. Bet Pro video will be out around like 1-ish, and then I'll be back for the deeper dive with somebody at 5.
You are with Neil Orfield tonight.
Oh, sweet. I haven't done a show with him in a while.
Well, now you have that opportunity. So thank you guys for being here. Make sure you're hitting that like button, subscribing to the channel, hit that notification bell so you know when everything goes live. Don't forget the Odd Shop live, 4 p.m. Eastern time on our Odd Shopper channel. You get Lofty and Ben breaking down some bets for basketball and beyond. Good luck tonight, everybody. We'll talk to you again later on. Make sure you're watching the deeper dive later today. If we get any news, that's where you want to be. Good luck, everybody. Thanks to PrizePicks. We're out of here. Peace.